So you may know that I grew up without a father, and my mom, to pay the bills, had to work multiple jobs most of my life, which led me often to being unsure of who to look up to, searching around with my group of friends. And because I moved around 18 times by the time I was 18, the person I should look up to or knew how to model myself after, that was always a fluid situation, and I never really got a grasp on who I wanted to be because I wasn't sure what it looked like. I didn't catch on to the image of something or the philosophies of someone that resonated with me to, you know, to copy in a way and to learn from, I guess is a better way to say it. When I was around 16, my mom moved down to Florida while I stayed living outside of Boston to finish out my school years. When I was about 17 or so, I drove down to see my mom in Florida, and she had told me to check out one school that was nearby her and was having an open house. It was a college. So I drove in to this university really just to check out, what it looked like, not really thinking much about it. I wasn't really thinking that much about college, honestly, at that point. It was still pretty early on to really be applying and to looking. So I was walking around this huge campus, and one lady walks up to me and said, "Hi, how can I help you? You look a bit lost." And she started asking me questions about myself. I learned through the conversation that I was playing sports, and she asked, "Well, how interested are you in sports? Are you, curious about it, or is it something you're just doing?" And I told her, "No, like last year I got a computer and I started researching about how to get faster, and I am interested in it." And she said, "Well, I actually lead the exercise science department here at the university, and maybe you'd be interested to check it out and to learn more about it." And I said, "Absolutely." So she walked me through a little bit about what the program looked like. She gave me a brochure. She brought me to the admin office and checked out my grades. And long story short, I moved down to Florida to go to this university and study exercise science because of that lady. That lady's name is Dr. Buffy, and she has recently retired, as I saw on Instagram. So of course, it got me thinking, when I saw her that she's retiring, of course, it got me thinking about some of the memories that I had with her, but even more importantly, the value of having that mentor figure at that point in my career and in my life. For me, beginning this study of exercise science when I was 18, I think for many people, you may look at it as, okay, it's just a bunch of gym bros doing gym stuff. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to get myself into when I joined it. I also wasn't expecting, rocket science or anything like that. But very early on, Dr. Buffy instilled the importance of having a value system and ethics. And she did that as showcasing her values as a teacher and expecting a high level or high standard of ethics as a student, as a learner. And that showed the importance of what she was teaching for her. It showed the importance of holding yourself to a high standard as a coach, as a teacher, as a trainer. That this isn't something about gym bros doing gym stuff. This is about guiding somebody. and getting people to work together to achieve a common goal, getting the most out of people. And the way to do that is by setting an example as a leader, as somebody that others can trust and count on, and who people want to be around and want to learn from and want to follow. And all of these philosophical elements of coaching was actually the beginning part of what we learned. And I thought at the time that really changed my outlook on things. And I think I've held on to those ideas since then. You know, until now, I still prioritize when I spend time every week learning something. I still, till to this day, I prioritize learning about psychology and how to communicate, how to understand, how to relate and reflect, and all of these more human elements of being a coach who has 20 plus people walking into my door and trusting me. I think it's most important at my level currently to be able to connect to others on a human level rather than knowing everything there is to know at the highest level possible, but not be able to communicate it. A sidebar, you know, getting off the track a little bit, when I was 20 or so, I think 20, I was brought in to work with a professional tennis player named Anna Kournikova. And the guy who brought me in, he brought me in literally he told me exactly that. I'm bringing you in because I think that you can communicate with her, relate to her. And, you know, I didn't create the program or do any of that, but I would know the program and then help in implementing it. And again, my main goal was just to ease the difference in communication styles between the coach and the athlete. And for sure, the only reason I was even remotely competent at doing that is because of the lessons that Dr. Buffy, my mentor, had been teaching me since I was 18. And you know, especially in this, in every field, I think it's helpful to have a mentor for sure. But you see it in the fitness industry, I think, because I'm in it, you know, I'm biased for sure, but I feel like it's the most oversaturated with quote unquote professionals, quote unquote experts. And it's so easy to look like a professional, like an expert on social media. And we're lucky these days, you know, there's so much information available online. We can learn so much if we put any level of effort in. You can learn most of what you learn in exercise science 4-year degrees. You can learn that online. But what you can't really learn from a book is the human element of how to implement those teachings, not for yourself, not only for yourself, but for other people. How to get other people to get the message. How to get other people to want to come back. How to get other people to align on a common goal. How to relate to different people. Dr. Buffy's messages have really stayed with me for the last, graduated 2012, so 15 years since I graduated. Yeah, it's a long time, and I really think about, you know, different days, different classes, different tests, different lessons, different conversations we would have. And, you know, what she represented to me was somebody, despite her stature, despite, you know, her friendly, you know, she was somebody who was universally loved, respected, looked up to, not just by students, but by faculty as well. That ability to unite people, to guide people, to make people feel good about themselves, for people to allow you to, in a way, punish them in a way where you know that whatever is being told to you is for your own good. The lessons being given to you are for your benefit. That ability to be a rock in a way, I realized later on in my life that she kind of, in a way, took the place of my grandfather, who passed away when I was about 9 years old. And up until that point, the first 9 years of my life, he was that rock in my life. He was the person I looked up to as the representation of a man. Strength, consistency, no excuses, family over everything. He was showing me, before my voice got deeper and before I was allowed to drive and before I was doing anything remotely what you would call, activities of a man. I was a kid. I was playing, just playing. But even at that early age, he was showing me what a man was and what I wanted to be. But unfortunately, he passed away before I could start to actualize those and really replicate those things that I was wanting to do and wanting to be. And then when I go to college and I meet Dr. Buffy, I think those things came back. I was seeing again somebody who, I want that. I want to have that ability to unite people, for people to trust me, for people to understand that they can do more than maybe they see themselves currently able to. We limit ourselves. We think, I went in college with so many self-limiting thoughts. I'm just a troublemaker. I'm just poor. I'm just always late. I'm just stupid. I'm just this. I just kind of thought all of these things about myself. And she would say, no, you're not. And she would show me in her own way. And those lessons of both my grandfather and Dr. Buffy and a few others that I hope to mention more in the future have shaped my career, and I've held on to them. And I think there's no other, no other like clearer way or no other clearer example of how this shows itself than being consistent in a very unstable field. This field is full of noise, full of just saturated, over-complex, inaccurate, misleading, dangerous content. I mean, look at right now how much Mounjaro this and Ozempic that. But learning from Dr. Buffy how to stay consistent and essentially tied to a belief system, you learn the truth, you learn the core truths. And if you really know and understand them through and through, then any new information, new trend, new fad, new viral sensation that comes about, it doesn't penetrate into the core of what's important to you as a coach, as a trainer, as a fitness professional. And I see so many other, trainers around me throughout the years who get swept up in the trends of whatever is popular at that moment in the fitness world, and they latch themselves onto it. And they take off for a short while. They do. They go and they get a little bit of a boost for some time. And I don't. I never have latched onto a trend. I've seen the trends. I've understood the trends. I really put them in their place where they belong in my world of fitness in a way. And when the trend changes, the people who got boosted by it are a little bit flapping away. And now what do? Do they hold on to a dying trend? Do they search for a new trend? And this isn't to bash on anybody, because I get it. But it's to really show thanks and gratitude to my mentor who taught me not to do that. Showed me the reason why you shouldn't do that. Going through the history. I remember at my first class, we went through the entire history of exercise, essentially. You know, from caveman times to Roman times to now. We went through an entire timeline of exercise trends. And I remember at the time, like, what are we doing? Why am I learning about what the Romans did? Who cares what the caveman's version of sitting was, you know? Oh, those are some of the most important lessons from the whole 4 years, is seeing the bigger picture. And there's no other bigger picture. There's no picture bigger than the whole history of mankind, essentially. So I'm extremely thankful and grateful to have had Dr. Buffy as a mentor. I'm sad to live so far away from her, so I don't get to keep in touch with her as much as I would like. But my biggest advice to anybody, if anybody's listening and still listening to this point, is to find a mentor in whatever field. If you're looking to be a coach, find a mentor who is a good coach. Even if they're not a coach in your specific field, find somebody who you can learn how to communicate from, how to be a person of character, like real character. Because that's the type of person people want to be around, people want to follow, people want to listen to, people will trust. And that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. We're trying to be people of character, trying to be people of trust who help others. Like my mentor, Dr. Buffy, helped me. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.